I found my wife's secret bank account with $200, $0 she hid during our divorce, only to discover she's planning to sell the family home, worth $1.2 million, behind my back to cover her legal fees and leave me with nothing. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how I found out my wife was cheating on me and planning to screw me over financially. Honestly, I thought we had a solid life, 2 kids, a nice house, decent jobs. But then, out of nowhere, everything started unraveling and I realized I was completely blind to what was really going on behind my back. It all started a few months ago. Lisa, my wife, had become more distant. She'd brush off my questions about her whereabouts, say she was working late or meeting friends. She'd get defensive if I asked about her phone or her computer. Little things, you know, but I chalked it up to stress. We were going through a rough patch, I thought. The kids were acting out, the bills were piling up, and I was just trying to keep everything together. Then, one day, I noticed her phone was unlocked on the kitchen table. I usually wouldn't snoop, but I was curious. She had been acting so secretive lately. I saw a message from some guy named Mark and it caught my eye. It was flirty, a lot of "can't wait to see you tonight" and "thinking about you all day." That was a red flag, but I didn't jump to conclusions. I just saved the chat, thinking I'd confront her later. A few days passed and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I decided to dig a little deeper. I started checking her social media, her emails, and her bank accounts. That's when I found something that made my stomach drop. She had a secret bank account hidden from me with $200, $0 in it. It was under her maiden name and she'd been funneling money into it for months. Why? What was she hiding? I couldn't believe she'd been lying to me about everything. But that wasn't the worst part. I found out she'd been planning to sell the family home, our family home, worth about $1.2 million. She'd been talking to real estate agents behind my back, trying to set everything up. She told me she wanted to downsize, to be closer to her sister, but I knew better. This was her way out, her escape plan. She was planning to leave me with nothing, no house, no money, just whatever she could take. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this? How could she lie and cheat and then sell everything we built? I was furious, hurt, and confused all at once. I started to piece together how long she'd been planning this. It wasn't just a sudden thing. She'd been plotting behind my back for months, maybe even years. The betrayal hit me hard. I thought I knew Lisa. I thought she was the love of my life. But it turns out she was just pretending, hiding her true self, planning her escape while I was clueless. It's a sickening feeling, realizing your partner has been lying to you for so long, especially about something as huge as our home and money. I knew I couldn't just let her get away with this. I had to do something. I had to find a way to stop her and get some answers. And that's when I started planning my revenge, even if I was entirely sure what that looked like yet. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going down without a fight. The moment I uncovered her secret bank account and the plan to sell our house, everything changed. I stayed up all night, going through every detail I could find: emails, texts, bank statements. The more I looked, the more sick I felt. She had been so clever about hiding everything, but the evidence was staring me in the face. I couldn't believe she had been lying to me this whole time, pretending to be the perfect wife while she was plotting her escape. The house was quiet that morning when I confronted her. Lisa was in the kitchen making coffee, acting like nothing was wrong. She looked at me with her usual bitchy smirk, like she knew I was onto her but was trying to act innocent. I took a deep breath, feeling my fists clench, and laid the evidence on the table. I slid the bank statements and the real estate plans across to her. Her face froze for a second, then she threw her head back and laughed, mocking, dismissive. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You think I'm cheating on you? You think I'm planning to run away with some guy? You're paranoid as usual." But I saw the panic in her eyes. She knew I wasn't just making this up. She spun some bullshit about how the money was for her personal expenses, said she'd been saving for a new business, or some stupid lie about investing. She any plans to sell the house, claiming I was overreacting. But I wasn't buying it. I knew her too well. She lied all the time. She lied about everything, especially about money. She'd always been bitchy about spending, but suddenly she had hundreds of thousands stashed away. That made no sense. I pressed her harder. Why hide the account, Lisa? Why not tell me? Why sell the house behind my back? Are you planning to leave me with nothing? Her eyes flickered with anger and she snapped back. I don't owe you explanations. You're just paranoid like always. I don't know what you're talking about. That moment, I realized I was dealing with someone who would say anything to cover her ass. She was a master manipulator. I felt a mix of rage and sadness. Rage because she was betraying me, and sadness because I'd loved her, trusted her. It felt like my entire world was crumbling. I sat down trying to process everything. I wasn't just angry, I was devastated. How could she do this? How could she be so selfish, so dishonest? I thought about all the times she dismissed my concerns, told me I was overreacting, called me paranoid. Turns out she was the one sneaking around, planning her escape. In that moment, I knew I couldn't just brush this off. I had to act. I needed a plan, a way to stop her, protect what was mine, and get some real answers. I started thinking about the legal side of things, about how to freeze her accounts, how to keep the house from being sold without my say. But first, I needed proof and a clear head. I couldn't let her see how much she'd rattled me. As I sat there, staring at the evidence, I realized this was no longer just about her cheating. This was about betrayal on a whole new level. She'd been planning to take everything from me, our home, our future, the money we'd worked so hard for. I felt sick, but I also felt a fire ignite inside me. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, not without a fight. I had to figure out my next move, and fast. The next few days were a whirlwind. After confronting Lisa that morning, I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't let her sell the house or move money around anymore. I started by hearing a lawyer, someone who specialized in family law and asset protection. I gave her everything I'd uncovered: bank statements, emails, the real estate plans. I wanted to be prepared for whatever she was planning. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude didn't change much. She still played the victim, acting innocent and bitchy when I pressed her. She insisted she was done with all the lies and that I was overreacting, but I saw through her bullshit. I knew she was hiding something bigger. I was beginning to see her true colors, the manipulative, self-centered side that I'd ignored for too long. One night, I decided to do some digging into her phone, something I'd never thought I'd do, but I was desperate. I found texts from Mark, the guy I saw earlier. It wasn't just flirtation anymore. They had plans to meet up to have sex. She'd been sneaking around, lying to my face. That was the final straw. I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt disgusted, angry, and utterly humiliated. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I was ready. I carefully planned my words. I told her I had all the evidence, that I knew about her affair and the secret money. Her reaction was classic: denial, anger, and then tears. She tried to spin it, saying I was paranoid, that I was just jealous, that she never meant to hurt me, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I was filing for divorce. I wanted the house, the money, everything. I wasn't going to let her walk away with my life's work. I also told her I was going to freeze her accounts and take legal action to prevent her from selling the house without my consent. Her bitchy attitude turned to panic. She begged, she cried, she promised she'd change, but I knew better. I'd seen her true colors now. That night, I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I finally had proof and a plan; heartbreak because I realized how much I'd been blind. She'd been cheating, lying, and plotting behind my back for who knows how long. It was a gut punch, knowing the woman I loved and trusted could do this to me. I wasn't sure how I'd get through it, but I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. Over the next few days, I worked with my lawyer to file the paperwork. I also started gathering evidence of her plans: texts, emails, even recordings of her talking about selling the house. I wanted everything on record. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage, I was fighting for my dignity and my future. I felt like I was in a war I never wanted to fight, but I was determined to come out on top. All the while, Lisa kept trying to manipulate me, throwing tantrums, calling me paranoid, accusing me of trying to ruin her. She'd call me a jealous fool, say I was insecure. But I knew better. I knew what she was capable of. She was a bitch, a liar, a manipulator, and I was done being her fool. My trust was shattered, and I was ready to do whatever it took to protect what was mine. The storm was just beginning, and I knew I had to be prepared for whatever was coming next. After I filed for divorce and took all the legal steps to freeze her accounts and halt the sale of the house, Lisa's true bitchy side really started to show. She was furious, of course. She screamed, called me every name in the book, and accused me of trying to ruin her life. But I didn't care. I had everything documented now, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this one. One evening, she showed up at my office, unannounced, furious, tears streaming down her face. She begged me to drop the divorce, to forget everything I'd found. She told me she was sorry, that she'd been stressed, that she'd made mistakes. She looked desperate, like a spoiled brat throwing a tantrum, but I wasn't buying it. I looked at her and saw right through her act. This was her plan all along, and she wasn't going to get away with it. I told her I wasn't interested in her excuses, that I knew she'd been cheating, lying, and planning her escape for months. I told her I'd been patient, but enough was enough. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I was done being played. I knew she'd been planning to sell the house behind my back, to drain our joint assets, and to leave me with nothing. That's when she snapped. She yelled, called me a controlling bastard, accused me of ruining her life. She said I was just jealous, that I didn't trust her, that I was insecure. But I didn't care about her lies anymore. I just wanted her out of my life. I told her she needed to leave my office now. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, but I could see the determination in her eyes. She wasn't giving up that easily. The next day, I got a call from my lawyer. Lisa had tried to get a restraining order against me, claiming I was harassing her. The judge dismissed it. I also found out she'd been trying to sell the house illegally, contacting real estate agents without my approval. It was clear she was desperate, trying to push her plan through before I could do anything about it. Meanwhile, I started to prepare for the worst. I hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her. I wanted to know if she was trying to move money, if she was talking to anyone about the sale. I also started gathering more evidence, screenshots of her plans, copies of her communications, everything I could to protect myself legally. I wasn't just fighting for the house anymore. I was fighting for my reputation, my future, my sanity. I also began to think about what I really wanted. Part of me still loved her, but I knew she was no longer the woman I married. She'd betrayed me in ways I couldn't forgive easily. I realized I needed to focus on rebuilding my life, on protecting my kids from the chaos she was creating, and on making sure she didn't get away with destroying what we had. It was of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness, and even a small flicker of hope that I could come out of this stronger. I knew I had to stay calm, stay focused. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I was starting to see the bigger picture. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was trying to take everything I cared about. That realization fueled my determination to see this through, no matter how difficult it got. I've learned a lot in these past few weeks about trust, betrayal, and the importance of standing up for myself. I know now that sometimes you have to fight dirty to protect what's yours, and I'm ready. Whatever happens next, I'm not going down without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, surveillance, and planning. I felt like I was in a war I never wanted to fight, but I knew I had no choice. Every time I thought I'd get a moment to breathe, something else popped up. Another lie, another scheme Lisa was trying to pull behind my back. She was relentless, and honestly, her bitchy attitude only intensified as she realized I was serious about fighting back. One afternoon, I caught wind that she had met with a real estate agent. I had my private investigator tail her, and the footage was clear. She was pushing to sell the house without my knowledge or consent. That was the last straw. I knew I had to act fast to stop her from completing the sale illegally. I contacted my lawyer immediately and filed an emergency court order to freeze the property sale and any transfer of assets. Meanwhile, Lisa's temper flared. She started calling me names, accusing me of trying to ruin her life, calling me insecure and controlling. She threw a tantrum in front of the kids, screaming that I was ruining everything for her. But I stayed calm. I knew she was just trying to manipulate the situation, to make me look like the villain. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight. I also discovered she'd been trying to secretly withdraw money from our joint account, over $50, $0 in a matter of days. I had already set up a legal hold on all her accounts, but seeing her try to drain our funds made me realize how desperate she was getting. She was willing to do anything to save her plan, even if it meant risking everything. That's when I decided to take more aggressive legal action. I filed for an injunction to prevent her from transferring any more assets or selling the house until everything was sorted out. Throughout all this, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of anger and heartbreak. How could she have been so selfish, so manipulative? I loved her once, but now I saw her for what she truly was, a bitchy, lying cheat who would do anything to get what she wanted. I felt betrayed on every level. My trust was shattered, and I wondered how I'd ever rebuild my life after this. But I also knew I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her see how much she was affecting me. I started documenting everything: her calls, her meetings, her attempts to hide money or sell the house. I made sure my lawyer had every piece of evidence. I also reached out to some financial advisors and real estate experts to understand the full extent of what she was planning and to prepare for the worst. One thing was certain: Lisa was not going to get away with this without a fight. She was angry, manipulative, and determined to leave me with nothing. But I was equally determined to fight for what was rightfully mine. I wasn't just fighting for the house or the money. I was fighting for my dignity, my future, and the stability of my family. I knew this was only the beginning, but I was ready for whatever came next. The emotional toll was heavy. I'd gone from feeling betrayed and angry to feeling numb at times. But deep down, I knew I had to keep moving forward. I had to protect my kids from her bitchy outbursts and her lies. I had to stay composed and strategic. This wasn't over yet, and I was prepared to see this through to the end, no matter how ugly it got. Because at the end of the day, I knew I deserved better than this. I just had to make sure I fought for it. The final stretch was the most intense. Everything I had been building up to, the legal filings, the surveillance, the evidence gathering, was coming to a head. Lisa's attempts to manipulate, lie, and hide her plans only made me more determined. I had put in so many late nights, poring over documents, coordinating with lawyers, and making sure I had every possible angle covered. I knew she was desperate, and that desperation was her weakness. One day, the court finally scheduled a hearing to stop the sale of the house and freeze her assets entirely. I sat there in the courtroom, feeling a mixture of exhaustion, anger, and a strange sense of relief. Lisa was there, bitchy as ever, throwing angry glances my way. Her lawyer tried to spin stories about how she was just trying to resolve things amicably, but the judge saw right through her. My lawyer presented all the evidence: texts, bank statements, the real estate documents, and laid out how she was trying to sell the house behind my back. The judge was firm. She issued an order preventing Lisa from selling or transferring any property or money until the divorce was finalized. The court also ordered her to pay back the money she'd withdrawn illegally and to account for every dollar she'd hidden. It was a huge win, and honestly, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, I saw hope that I might come out of this whole mess with some dignity intact. Lisa's reaction was pure bitchiness. She sat there fuming, yelling about how unfair everything was. But I didn't care. I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, selfish woman who had tried to screw me over to cover her own ass. Her face was red with rage, but the court's decision was clear. She had lost her leverage. In the aftermath of the hearing, I started the process of rebuilding. I moved into a temporary place, separated myself from her chaos. I filed for divorce officially, and I made sure I'd get custody of the kids. I wanted to shield them from her bitchy attitude and her schemes. I also took steps to secure my financial future, making sure the house was protected and that she couldn't drain any more money. Looking back, I realize how much I've learned about trust, betrayal, and the importance of standing up for myself. I was blind for too long, but finally I saw her true colors. The pain of betrayal still lingers, but I know I'm stronger now. I learned that sometimes you have to fight dirty to protect what's yours, that you can't trust a person who's willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate everything they touch. I don't regret fighting for what's right, even if it meant going through hell. My advice to anyone in a similar situation: don't be passive. Gather evidence, get legal help, and stand your ground. Because if you don't, someone will. Take everything from you: your home, your money, your dignity. And trust me, you'll regret it forever. I've learned that the hard way. Now I focus on moving forward, rebuilding what I can, and making sure my kids know they're loved and protected. That's what matters most now.